What's going on, everybody? TJ the Big Sports Guy here. It is true, I am all done with sports cards. Going to be getting out of the hobby for a while. Sports cards just no longer fun for me, and I'm sorry this video may get a little bit longer. I'm just going to kind of vent about some of the things that I don't like to the camera, so I apologize again for the length. I am also in this video, though, going to break down how much money I spent in an entire year while I was actively buying and selling sports cards. I did make some notes on my phone ahead of time here, so I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to read a few of those things just so I don't, forget anything or leave anything out here. But the first thing that I did want to talk about was this local show that I attended over the weekend. There was a show in Salisbury, North Carolina. It was put on by Sports Wax Promotions, a guy named James, who I've known for a couple of years from, doing shows. I did his shows, did the one that was here in Mooresville. I've set up in Salisbury. I set up, in Charlotte and in Raleigh, and I've been to all these really cool places and everything. But going to this show over the weekend really kind of opened my eyes to a few things. And one of those was that, I haven't been able to do a local show in the last 13 months just because I've been busy with other things and I traveled for work. But I don't really miss that. I don't miss having to box up all the inventory, carry it downstairs from my third floor apartment that I live in, load it into the car, drive to the show, get there early, unload everything. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes from those dealers that you may not necessarily see. And, putting in that much time, you really have to love it. You have to stay passionate about it. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed the relationships that I built with people and coming in contact with some really, really cool cards. And being able to then pass those on to other collectors has been awesome. I really enjoyed that part of it, but all that work behind the scenes and the time and effort that it takes, including doing this YouTube channel, just to let everyone know, I've been doing this YouTube channel for, I guess, like maybe 2 years now. You can go back and see when the first video was, but I haven't really made any money from this YouTube channel. That was never really the purpose anyways. I wanted to try YouTube because I had never done it. Wanted to see if I could build an audience and make some engaging content and kind of share the experiences that I was going through with you guys and show you everything about the sports card hobby. Really, for me, it started with buying collections from people either through, Facebook Marketplace or other things that I found locally, and kind of piece those things out and sell them and pass them on to other collectors. And so then I got more involved and I was buying bigger and bigger collections and kind of doing that same thing. And it was a rinse and repeat. But I just wanted to take you guys through that and then also take you with me to the shows when I set up so that you could see, what it was like to actually go to a sports card show, what the traffic was like there, how much money you can make, what kind of cards you can buy and sell, what are people looking for, and just kind of share all of that stuff with you. Now, to just go back to that show that I went to over this past weekend. So some of the things that I noticed there, there was quite a long line when we got there. The show opened at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was a little bit surprised how many people there were that were standing outside kind of waiting to get in. It took a little while just to kind of have everyone funnel through the doors. I sat in the car for a while, kind of watched the line die down. Got into the show about 10 o'clock. Now, from my perspective, again, I wasn't set up. I didn't have a table, so I don't know that this is the case. But just from watching some of the other interactions at the tables as I was going around the room, didn't seem like there were a ton of serious buyers in the room like there used to be a year or two ago when I was really setting up a lot. It kind of feels like, everyone wants a deal and they're buying cards just to be able to sell to other people who also want to sell cards. So everyone is basically going up to a table and offering, maybe 50, 60% comps for a card so that they can turn around to sell it to someone else who's then going to try to also sell it. So it's just like every single person in the hobby right now kind of seems like they're still trying to make money. Maybe these are some of the flippers that have just kind of held on and are still in the hobby. And there's not a great opportunity for that. And they're also not selling those cards to actual collectors. So until we get to a point where the sports card hobby and the last person to own or retain a card is an actual true collector who values that and wants to just see it sitting either in a box or on a shelf, it's going to be very hard for the market to fully correct and for prices to level off because everyone is just trying to get a deal so that they can sell it to someone else who's then trying to sell it. So until the end buyer is actually a collector who wants that card and is just willing to pay whatever they think that it's worth to sit around and just be cool in a box or on the shelf so that they can look at it, things are always going to be kind of out of whack. And so it just kind of feels like a really weird place in the market. Another thing for me that's really irritating, and I know I've mentioned this in other previous videos and stuff too, is just wax prices right now. Wax prices are astronomical. The new Prism football is a really good example. The 2023. I mean, you could get mega boxes anywhere from $60 to $70 at this last show, or at like local card shops. But hobby boxes are $800. So those boxes are coming with like maybe one or two autos, usually for hobbies. But $700-800 for a box of football cards, where you're 99.9% of the time not going to pull any kind of a chase card, meaning the majority of those autos that you're going to get are going to be worth $15 to $20 in this market. Maybe you get lucky and you pull a numbered CJ Stroud or a silver CJ Stroud, and you can make $300, $400, $500 off of it because he's super hot right now and just want a playoff game. But the fact that you have to pull the absolute best cards out of a product just to get your money back, I mean, not even to get close to making a profit, but just to get close to getting your money back, I think is ridiculous. It's not like the times at all. I remember being a kid, so this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You could go to a grocery store or like a Meijer, a Walmart, a place like that was selling cards, and you could get a decent, I don't know if they would have considered them like a mega or a hobby or whatever, but sometimes they would have like either an autograph or memorabilia card or maybe just a mem card or something. They were like $20. You could get them for $12.99 all the way to $20. I know we've seen some inflation, obviously, but with the hobby exploding, prices just got to a point where they are way higher than what they should be. And until that corrects itself, obviously I won't be buying any wax. I really don't. I like to rip. I have fun doing that, but I just can't afford to keep chasing and trying to hit those home run cards. I did it for a little while just because I was like making money buying and selling cards, and had a decent job where I could afford to spend some money on those things. So it was okay for me to try to like take a chance, and I like the nostalgia and the fun of ripping a box of cards and trying to hit a great card out of there, but it's just really not worth it. And so hopefully you guys have figured that out. If you haven't already, if you were someone that gets into a lot of breaks or does a lot of ripping, hopefully you've kind of slowed down on that, because back in 2020, let's say, if you were getting into a lot of breaks or you were ripping a lot of product, you could probably salvage at least 75% of the value, just because the individual resale prices on cards was so high that you could then get back maybe 75%. If you hit a really good card, you could actually make money on those products just by ripping cards. But that hasn't been the case for a long time. So hopefully you guys have figured that out, but that just needs to come way, way down. I don't know what's going to happen either, obviously, with the Topps Panini Fanatics thing and the licensing and all that. We're just going to have to see how that plays out. But I think that the timeline is really going to get pushed out a little longer than everyone thinks. So it's going to be another 2 to 3 years before we really see a resolution there. I'm still waiting on a redemption also. It's an Obsidian auto of Luka Doncic out of 49. It's going on like 500 days now that I'm waiting on from Panini. So obviously I don't love that either. So we just got to see how all these things shake out. But just another negative thing about the hobby that I'm not really loving right now. One more thing for you guys to pay attention to, speaking of high prices, all of these rookie auto one-of-ones that you see posted on Facebook groups and things like that, where people are asking $10,000 plus, those things really don't sell that often. They don't sell hardly at all. And they just don't move, right? So when you're thinking about buying one of those cards, or you see a card and you're like, wow, that's a really awesome card, maybe it is worth $10,000, $15,000, just go back, look at prices of guys like Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady is going to be kind of the one outlier just because he's got so many Super Bowls and he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But look at some of the retired quarterbacks, the Peyton Mannings, even the Eli Mannings, right? To see guys that have won 1, 2, or 3 Super Bowls in their career, and just go back to their rookie cards, rookie autos, see if you can find something like that to compare to these cards, because the downside for all of these new cards is just so great. Even the guys like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, these guys who are amazing young quarterbacks and are going to be franchise quarterbacks for a long time, right? They're going to play in the league for 10 or 15 years, more than likely, provided they stay healthy and everything. But their card values are so high right now that unless they were to win 5, 6 Super Bowls and be one of, if not the best quarterbacks, which is going to be almost impossible for anybody to catch Brady, their values have to go down. These prices can't be sustained. It's just unrealistic. If you look at those guys that I mentioned before, that group of quarterbacks that's won 1, 2 Super Bowls that are known as all-time greats. I mean, Drew Brees, passing yards leader for the NFL. Peyton Manning, obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played the game too. I mean, those guys, they don't get as much love as you would think. Their card prices are not crazy high. Even if you go back and you find low number rookies or, autographed rookie cards and things like that, you can buy them for well under $1,000. You can buy them in some cases for $200 or $300. So just be really cautious of those things too, and don't get caught up in like the Instagram influencer card guys who are pumping all this really cool new modern product and saying like, this card's worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. We just saw the new Bowman Draft Baseball Tom Brady 1/1 Superfractor autograph sold for, I believe it was $158,000 on Golden Auctions. There's no way. Now, it is a superfractor. It is Tom Brady. He's the greatest of all time, and I realize it's kind of a niche product because it's a new baseball autograph of Tom Brady, but that card is not worth anywhere near $150,000. I'm sorry, but it just will not hold value. Whoever bought that now, they're buying it because it just came out and it's the new hot thing. But I guarantee if you watch that card in 5-10 years, if it gets resold, it's going to be like $50K tops. I mean, there's just no way that thing's going to hold value. All right, so I did say earlier in the video I was going to break down some of the spending for you guys. So I'm going to go back to 2022, which was the last full year that I spent a lot of time doing like sports cards and was going to shows regularly. I was probably setting up at 2 shows per month, so about every other weekend on average. So I'm going to tell you exactly how much money I spent on sports cards and kind of how that year evolved for me and what I was doing. So I know I mentioned it briefly, but I was basically going out and searching for collections to buy on Facebook Marketplace and other places. And the biggest collection I ever bought was in October of 2021. I spent $13,000 in cash for a big collection from a guy from Texas. He drove it all the way here. Dropped everything off for me. He had sent me an itemized spreadsheet beforehand with prices and everything, so I knew exactly what I was buying. I had pictures, so I bought that collection, and I probably flipped that for like somewhere in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. Now, when you do that, obviously it takes a little bit of time and a lot of effort to go through and price out all the cards and get them ready for shows, and it probably took me months upon months to sell through all that inventory from that one collection, but for the year 2022, I did spend $70,000 just on my business credit cards for sports cards. So I had those credit cards linked in my PayPal account. So anytime that I was buying cards through PayPal, it would just charge to those cards automatically. And so that's how much I spent during the year. That does not include any cash that was spent at sports cards. So as I would go to a card show, and I would bring in cash from some of the product that I was selling, I would then take that cash and then buy new inventory. I would guess that to be somewhere around another $30,000 for the year. So I probably spent a total of around $100,000 on sports cards in 2022 for someone who was kind of doing it full time, but wasn't doing that as my only source of income. I've always had another job that I was working while I was doing this. And I think back to 2022, and I mean, that's kind of a crazy number when you look at it just right off the cuff, right? I mean, a majority of households in the United States on average don't even make $100,000 for the year, and I was able to spend $100,000 in 1 year on sports cards, which is crazy even to me. I never thought that I would get to that point. I don't want you to think that you need to do that or that you have to do that or that's the smartest thing to do. But that's just kind of how things played out for me. Now, I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate to be able to have done that. I was able to make some money on the cards that I was, buying and selling and flipping and trading. So things worked out for me just fine. But I just kind of wanted to give you some insight as to how much money was actually spent. So if you're not someone that tracks those things and really keeps an eye on them, definitely a good idea for you to do that. I had opened up my own LLC, again, established those business credit cards so that I could do a better job automatically of tracking that spending and everything, because I'm not the best when it comes to tracking that stuff manually. If you do go to shows and you're buying and selling stuff, I would suggest at a bare minimum, at least keep a note on your phone of all the things that you bought and sold throughout the day, so that you know what you paid for things and then also how much you sold things for, and what cards you had and moved. It's nice to just kind of track all those things. Number one, for the financials, and then number two, just it's kind of cool to look back sometimes too and say like, oh man, I owned those cards. This is what I sold them for at the time. This is what prices they're doing now. Just to be able to kind of reflect on those things as well. All right, one last big topic we got to talk about too. The other thing that I really hate about the hobby right now, all of the negativity, the hate, the scams, all of this stuff is just, it has gotten worse and worse and worse over the last year, and I think that's just because there's not as much money in the hobby. There's not as many people actually buying and selling, so all of the people who are still trying to make money from the hobby are just getting to that point where they're kind of getting squeezed, right? The walls feel like they're kind of closing in on them, and you're just going to see more and more shady practices as time goes on until those people are finally out of the hobby. They get squeezed out entirely. But obviously, it's been a battle for me over the last couple of years seeing guys like the sports card investor, who I think is a complete scammer and who gives like the absolute worst financial and investment advice you could possibly ever receive. His advice is basically like back in when all the meme stocks were popular during COVID and all that, right? Telling your friends that when AMC's at $300 a share, you should buy the hell out of it because it's going to the moon. Like, his advice around sports cards and what you should be buying and selling and when you should be doing it is absolutely atrocious. So to market yourself as a sports card investor and then to make money off of the actual genuine collectors in this hobby is just despicable. I hate the guy. I have no respect for him at all. Probstein, another one, a bunch of just shill bidding going on all of their eBay accounts and whatever else. Golden Auctions, Ken Golden, huge scumbag, has been for decades. I don't know why anyone in this hobby even trusts that guy or ever has. I don't know if you guys saw also recently the Santiago sports cards. This guy comes in contact with like a bunch of, I believe they were dual autos of Kyle Kuzma and Lonzo Ball. There was like 1 through 25, numbered out of 25. He got all of them. Posted a video bragging about how he got in contact with these cards or whatever, and it was like some awesome thing. Turns out it was stolen property that got backdoored out of Panini, so he turned around and made another video because people started calling him out, and he's going to send those back to Panini now. Way to do the right thing. And then Card Collector 2, just like a super nerd in the hobby, not like super pumped up about his stuff. There's just a lot of people in this hobby that just come off as just like greasy scumbags. They look like Harry and Marv from Home Alone. Like, if they smile at you after they quote you the prices, their gold tooth is going to flash. Like, there's the most sketchy people ever in this hobby. And it's just so irritating being like a decent human being and seeing these guys walking around everywhere you go. I just don't want to associate with any of those people. Now, there are a lot of great people. I mentioned the connections that I built in this hobby. Still stay friends with a lot of these people on Instagram and stuff. But those guys, I've blocked like half of them. Blez Sports Cards and the other guys who scream in the microphone anytime that they get an awesome sports card out of a box of cardboard. It's just crazy. Like, that's not why I'm in this hobby. I don't love that. I don't want to hear grown men screaming like little girls when they pull a card that's worth like $200. Like, it's just not, I just don't enjoy that. It's not fun for me. So that's another huge reason that I'm like getting out of the hobby. It just seems like a bunch of people who are trying to take advantage of kids and their parents that have a little bit of money. So I'm just getting out. Don't want anything to do with it. Does this mean that I'm done with YouTube completely? No, it doesn't. I will be back at some point. I have some other interest, and I'm probably going to make some YouTube videos around. I'm not sure exactly how all that's going to play out yet, so stay tuned. I might use Big Sports Guy for like some more golf and sports-related content. Probably going to rebrand another channel for like some camping and outdoor activities, hiking, backpacking, that kind of thing. We'll see how it goes. I've got some other ideas. I'm just kind of playing around with them right now. But again, I appreciate all the support from everybody. I hope that you guys have a great 2024. If you guys still love sports cards and you're still doing it, I wish you all the best of luck. It's just not for me right now. And I will catch you next time.